Hey everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Blake Oliver, CPA, and I'm happy to be joined by David Leary, Hector Garcia, CPA, and Amanda Aguillard, CPA, as we discuss QBO, Xero, or both, what every firm leader needs to know on The Grove. The Grove, which is where you are right now, features monthly expert panels like this one, plus a whole host of courses, and of course a community where you can ask and answer questions that are relevant to the accounting profession. Today, we have brought together two of the most prominent experts, Amanda and Hector, who really know Xero and QBO respectively, and we're going to go deep into why practitioners might want to choose one or the other for their practices. Also, a bit of housekeeping. If you need CPE for this, you can sign up for Earmark and get credit. Earmark is a self-study platform, so you don't have to answer any polling questions today. We're going to send you an email after the fact, after this webinar, with a link to the course. That'll come out by next week. So again, don't worry about answering polling questions today. You can get CPE after the fact by answering quiz questions on the Earmark app. We will follow up with information about that if you need CPE. That said, I hope this is a great session full of information you can't easily get elsewhere. So let's get started. I am one of your moderators today, Blake Oliver. My podcast co-host, David Leary, is the other moderator. And we are very passionate about this topic because we both come from different sides of the aisle on this issue. I started a practice in 2010 that was completely based on Xero when Xero was very new in the United States. And we only did Xero. We did not do any QuickBooks, although I was a QuickBooks Pro advisor previous to that. David, on the other hand, comes from the Intuit side. David, I'm going to let you share a bit of your QuickBooks experience.
I mean, I grew up on QuickBooks. I spent like over half my life all QuickBooks, from like QuickBooks DOS all the way through Windows and CD-ROMs and cloud. And so I've really only lived QuickBooks. And at the end of the day, I'll probably still bleed green, but essentially, you know.
And you started out in QuickBooks customer support, answering phone calls, right?
Tech support. Yep.
Yeah. And then eventually
support.
You moved up to helping to grow the QuickBooks Online ecosystem. David is pretty modest about this, but I mean, he gets a lot of credit for taking QuickBooks Online apps from 6 apps on the App Store to like, what was it when you left?
700, 750-ish, something like that. There's been a lot.
That was David's job, was getting those apps into the ecosystem, which I think we can all agree had an amazing impact on what we can do as accountants and bookkeepers. So that's where we come from. And David and I have been friends now and business partners for longer than anyone I have been friends with or business partners with. So even though we have these ideological differences, we still get along. So there is hope, everybody. We can all come together, even if we have different opinions.
Well, I consider Amanda a very good friend as well, and Hector. So like, blue and green can get along.
Exactly.
So polarizing. We'll see what happens when we're finished with this webinar. Right. But for right now, we can all get along.
So now we've got Amanda and Hector, and I want to let you two share your experience with Xero or QuickBooks. So Amanda, I see you've got a Xero book right back there. I imagine that has something to do with your Xero experience. Tell us about what you do and how Xero has a lot to do with that.
Sure. So I started my own accounting practice back in 2012, 2013. And knew at the time I had little kids. Now my kids are much bigger than me, but at the time they were little and I wanted to have a virtual practice. And this is the very beginning of the cloud. So I looked around for a GL package, and I think probably most of the QBO people would agree in 2012, 2013, it was not a great product. And so I went to a conference and happened to see a little bit of a demo about Xero, which had just come to the US market from New Zealand, and was really impressed. So adopted Xero as my platform, and then things just kind of grew from there. Got really interested in connecting Xero with other apps and kind of built a specialty in that, and then started teaching other firms how to use Xero, started a training company on Xero, wrote a book on Xero. And so that kind of worked my way into becoming, I don't want to say an expert, but pretty knowledgeable on Xero. So that's my journey. And I still, even now, I'm the COO of a big accounting network called Paget. I still hold my own accounting practice, and we are still, to this day, Xero exclusive.
All right. And Hector, you are probably one of the names most associated with QuickBooks in the world, I would say, thanks to your YouTube channel. Tell us a bit about that and your background with Intuit and QuickBooks.
So I remember the very first time I touched QuickBooks, I was maybe 16 or 17. And my dad, who's always been a financial planner, building business plans and doing financial projections, had spreadsheets of data for me to input into QuickBooks to do like sort of beginning balance journal entries and stuff like that. And I really didn't know why I was doing it. I was just taught, hey, this number goes here, this number goes there. Just make sure it adds up at the end, hit save, and really that's all you need to do. And I also fast forward to like college. I remember taking accounting 1 and deciding that moment that accounting was stupid and I will never be in this profession. And somehow, the path of my life took me back into accounting. That might be a longer story, but when I first opened my bookkeeping practice, this is in 2008 when my daughter was born. Similar pattern here, Amanda. I was looking for a career that allowed I was working in a bank at the moment. I was a small business banker that allowed my wife to be able to retire from banking as well. She used to be a similar thing that I was doing, and take care of our daughter while being able to use the big brain of hers to help others in things of money and finance. And we found bookkeeping to be the thing. And this is before cloud platforms. This is we used to use Go to My PC and TeamViewer and remote desktop tools, and we were serving a couple of clients with QuickBooks Desktop. So my background really into this world was from a QuickBooks Desktop perspective, and I've always been a computer geek. So all the little nuances of dealing with desktop and importing data with Excel and stuff like that, and using the dreaded IIF file, which is something that allows you to import into desktop. That was always my thing. That was always my domain. And then alluding to Amanda said 2015, 2016, QuickBooks Online became relevant. And I don't know if Xero poked the bear or how it happened, but QuickBooks Online up to that point wasn't something that was getting much love. Somehow around 2015, someone into it woke up and said, hey, we are a different company now. We're going to put everything into QBO, and it's incredible how much Intuit has transformed to loving QuickBooks Desktop, to almost, I don't want to say it like this, but almost like they hate it internally, almost like they dread the fact that they still have to support it. So the shift to the cloud accounting has been pretty incredible. And I think at this point, when QuickBooks does need a healthy competitor in the market, QuickBooks has had way too much market share for too long, and I feel in many ways they're sort of cruising along just because they get a lot of default business. And companies like Xero, the nice thing about them is I think they do things slightly different, and I'll let Amanda talk about that. And that kind of make sure QuickBooks gets a reality check that, hey, you got to innovate, you got to stay one step ahead. If not, competitors can come in and take over that nice cushiony market share that QuickBooks has. So that's where I'm coming from. That's where we are. And I'm also a reseller, a QuickBooks solution provider. So it's my job to sell QuickBooks, and I make a livelihood from it.
Awesome. Thank you, Hector. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to start with a question to Amanda and then Hector. And then David and I are just going to take turns asking follow-up questions and digging into the differences and the reasons for these positions. So Amanda, first question for you. What are the most important factors that firms should consider when deciding between QBO and Xero?
That's a good one, Blake. I think that firms need to kind of think bigger, right? Like remove themselves from just the box of picking a general ledger, because I mean, we'll talk about this feature for feature. They're probably pretty similar at their core, but thinking about strategically, like where's the firm want to be? What is the scope of the firm, and how does it want to partner with a software vendor? And I mean, clearly I would say Xero wins that camp, right? I think Xero does a really good job of taking care of its partners. Like you mentioned, constantly innovating, engaging with its users and partners in a way that I have not seen from Intuit. I could be wrong, but I mean, I've seen some of the pushback from partners on the direction that Intuit's going into professional services and monetizing same products and services as its partners. So I think it's really important to think not just about, how many keystrokes does it take to reconcile a bank, item, but thinking about it bigger. I really believe that Xero is probably the better product if you're looking towards advisory. It has better reporting, more customizable reporting, things that can be done better at scale. So if that's something that your firm is looking at doing, where it's not going to be your clients in the software creating invoices or printing checks, but you're going to be more of an advisor, I think Xero probably wins there as well. But just think about where your firm is going and what your offerings are going to be and how you can partner with, a GL for that.
All right. Think bigger because the features are similar. That's what I heard from Amanda. And really think about those partner relationships. And she made it quite a dramatic statement there that it's better for advisory, better reporting. Hector, it's your turn. What do you think are the most important factors firms should consider when deciding between QBO and Xero? Do you agree with Amanda or do you disagree? And what are those factors?
I can't agree or disagree on any of the areas that have to do with Xero, because I'll confess to you, I'm not a Xero user. I made the conscious decision not to be one when I got my first Xero client in like 2015. And at that point, QuickBooks Desktop was still sort of reigning supreme, and my point of comparison was Xero and QuickBooks Desktop. And at that point, I just thought Xero was a toy, literally, like it was really pretty much useless compared to what I'm used to with QuickBooks Desktop. At this point, that's still not a fair comparison because QuickBooks Desktop is not even comparable to QuickBooks Online even. So I would have to only draw comparisons from Xero to QuickBooks Online to make this fair. Now, I don't know about Xero's reporting capabilities. I do know what I love and hate about QuickBooks Online reporting capabilities. So one of the things I dislike about QuickBooks Online reporting capabilities is the lack of consistency across multiple reports. You literally need to have a separate database, like a little Excel spreadsheet, for you to know which type of report has which type of filter and which type of field and which type of pivotable dimension, because it's super inconsistent through the entire QBO ecosystem. We're talking about core reports now. It's important to mention, if you're watching this in the future, this is February 27th, 2023, but it's important to mention that QuickBooks Online has been building a huge component of the reporting called the custom report builder, which is only in QuickBooks Online Advanced. So again, apples to apples makes it kind of challenging because I know Xero doesn't have a $200 product anyway, so it makes it very difficult for me to say, oh, hey, QuickBooks Online Advanced is this great reporting tool, but it's 3 times as much as the most expensive Xero product. So that would not be apples to apples. However, I haven't seen Xero's reporting product, but I could tell you, I could do it blindly. It will not rival QuickBooks Online Advance's custom reporting tool for multiple reasons. One, I've used many reporting tools, including pivot table style tools, just many apps out there. And what QuickBooks is building with the custom reporting tool is absolutely amazing. And I've been beta testing it for the last 2 years. So I'm kind of biased.
I'm gonna throw a flag here.
Yeah,
you can't bring up features that are not released yet.
No.
There's got to be a rule here.
No. Custom reporting tool released, active, currently right now in QuickBooks Online Advanced. Okay. I just the problem is that what they're building is essentially going to become core reports, but it's just what I'm saying is right now only the advanced users get access to that. So I'm saying I can compare probably, and Amanda, we could do this offline. I could show you, I could give you a demo of the advanced version of reporting, and you'll probably agree that for custom reporting, that's going to be more powerful. Now, when it comes to dashboards and like advisory tools, QuickBooks Online is really not strong in that area. I still isn't. I think you still need to add a third-party app. So I don't know, Amanda, if you were mentioning that within the context of a third-party app, because once you throw the third-party app, it's no longer a point of comparison. But the built-in, in terms of flat reports, you can do all sorts of great things in terms of like custom KPIs and stuff like that. QuickBooks Online is not there yet. Again, I have a tough time believing that Xero has better reporting because I've used a couple of years ago, but maybe 5, 6
It
years.
has much better reporting than it
Okay.
did a couple of years ago. I will
Okay.
tell you that. And somebody mentioned this in the chat. Not only can you customize reports at the client level, but you can build custom template reports and report packs at the firm level and push them down into your individual clients. So like I do a lot of law firm accounting, so I can build custom report packs specific to my law firm clients at the firm level and push it down to every single law firm client that I have and not have to go into the client to modify. So it is a huge time saver. But if you have not seen it, if you haven't seen reporting, I would say even in the last 18 months in Xero, you should go check it out because it's gotten a lot better.
But
Okay,
financial reports are one thing. Operating reports are a different thing. So when it comes to having dimensions like classes, locations, tags, custom fields, okay, I think that would be a really good point of comparison too, because it's not
I'll
just.
say this.
Yeah.
One thing I have noticed in the little bit of time that I've dabbled in QBO, to be fair, is that there are more dimensions available in QBO. Xero has only a couple with tracking categories. So it is a little bit flatter, as you said, but once you have those set up, you could theoretically in Xero, you could have 200 flags on each transaction. So you can have different dimensions that way with the tracking categories. But QBO does, I will say, have more options for fields and such. However, when you get to the reporting, you can drag and drop, you can set up, lots of different columns and groupings and even text and fields that are auto-populated. So it's pretty slick.
Okay, so we've already started jumping into the reporting, and we can totally get more into that. I know how important that is, but I want to make sure we answer this question, though. Hector, are there any other factors that are very important that Amanda didn't mention? She mentioned how the company treats you as a partner. She mentioned reporting. Is there anything else that we need to dig into?
Sure. So beyond those technical capabilities, the one thing I really enjoy about working with QuickBooks is the number of customers that there are out there. And as a firm owner and as a firm leader, as one that wants to get new customers, and I assume most people are in one way, shape, or form looking for new customers, the amount of new customers you can get from just sheer volume in QuickBooks it's probably not even measurable with Xero. Now, that being said, there's not that much Xero content out there. So like 2 or 3 Xero leaders making videos and making content about Xero will probably get the bulk of those leads. So that's probably there. But in terms of having a network of available customers and a network of available advisors and a database of sheer content like YouTube tutorials, I'm talking even beyond the tutorials that I make, QuickBooks has to win in that category. Just the volume is out there. So if you're a QuickBooks user, you're more likely to find an answer quickly via regular Google search because there's more content. And even ChatGPT, I play with ChatGPT. I can ask them QuickBooks questions, and there's enough content out there that it doesn't need the context of it being an accountant. There's enough stuff written about how to do things in QuickBooks where even ChatGPT can answer QuickBooks questions. So like just from that perspective, that's huge. From the way the company treats you, that's a hard one for me to answer because I'm kind of royalty, from Intuit's perspective. So my perspective is it's a little bit skewed, right? Because I'm a big salesman of QuickBooks and my YouTube channel. So I walk in there and it's red carpet all day long. So I can't tell you how the average advisor feels, and given by the size of the company and generally how big companies are and the correlation between company size and quality of customer service, it might be a little bit challenging for me to make the statement that the QuickBooks support is bigger or stronger than Xero's, even though I don't have a comparison point. But I would probably eat my words if I try to say that QuickBooks' support is stronger than Xero's. But I don't know what Xero's is.
Before we spin off, Blake, into like features, because there's just all these questions, we might even have to turbo go through features that are coming through. Matt and Hector, can you talk about, I'm assuming you're both certified, you've gotten some sort of badge or certification. I think Xero has their gold, silver, bronze, gold, silver partners. QuickBooks has certification, advanced certification. Can you compare and contrast those a little bit and even include maybe if there's a cost? So, Amanda, you can go first if you want.
Sure. So those badges are assigned based, you have to be certified in Xero, which is going through a course or passing a test or keeping up with product updates. So once you do it, it's really pretty easy to maintain. There is no cost. And then those levels correspond with how many clients you have on Xero. So it's not about competency, it's about volume. So it's just a scale based on how many clients you've got on Xero.
And
Hector.
QuickBooks, in the QuickBooks world, they still charge for the desktop certification because it comes bundled with software. But on the online certification, you actually get a free account. You get a free account for your firm. You get a free portal, QuickBooks Online portal, where you can invite your clients and even add clients at a wholesale rate. In the same portal, you can get certified. There's a core certification. There's an advanced certification. There's a payroll certification. And unbiased, because I'm part of the training programs are in there. There's all whole sorts of like advisory and like grow your practice webinar type training in there. I would say, without comparing it to Xero, because I don't know what Xero has, but I would say that the training available for accountants, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, just the amount of content that's out there, the amount of CPE webinars are out there, and the really deeply heavy subsidy in the conferences like QuickBooks Connect. Like we pay $700 to get there, but it's really a $3,000 valued conference. So like if you're an end user that uses everything that's available, I think that you're very satisfied with the amount of content and training that is out there.
We had a
For
question.
QuickBooks Online.
We had a question come in from Ash about Xero support. Is it still mainly email based, Amanda, or is there phone support too?
No, it's still email based and ticket based, but I will tell you, and I know there are a couple Xero people on here, if you put in your ticket you would like them to call you back, they will call you back.
Hack.
There you go. It's
go.
out now.
Yep.
That's the end of that.
Here's
Yeah,
my phone
they
number.
do.
Call me.
They are really good about responding to the tickets. I don't know what the turnaround time is for QBO support, but Xero tends to be pretty quick, and they've gotten better. But yeah, throw your number in there and say, I'd really like to talk with somebody on this, and they will give you a call back.
Now, QBO support is quick. The challenge is how quickly can they get you to the person that can solve the problem? That's a different challenge altogether. I think QuickBooks it would be nice to have just a straight ticketing system. They do have a callback system, by the way. QBO has a callback system, and it's probably the best thing to do. You start a chat and you request a callback. That is the best thing that QuickBooks Online has. Do it that way instead of just calling. But it would be nice if you could contextually send like a copy of the screenshot, a copy of the issue, and then before they call you back, somebody actually looked at it, understands it, and they routed it to the person that understands how to fix that. I don't know if Xero has that, but that would be super cool if QBO had something like that.
All right, David, I'm going to let you decide where we go next.
I think staying down this line, which I know, Hector, you said, oh, there's this big market. There's so much market. How much do these GLs drive business to accountants and bookkeepers, or to you, Hector, specifically from QuickBooks? And Amanda, how much do you get business driven to you from Xero?
You go first, Hector.
Okay, so inside the QuickBooks Online platform, there are some areas where it actually prompts need help from an accountant, and that area is the chart of accounts. For some reason, they picked the chart of accounts, possibly because their support stats told that the most amount of confusion around customers that don't have an accountant, it's probably in the chart of accounts. So there's actually a prompt in there saying, hey, you need an accountant. You click on a button and it takes you to the Find a Pro Advisor portal, which has, I believe the latest number is like 500,000 global pro advisors. And it's all based on zip code, which is also something that needs to be worked on because, in today's world, the local markets are not as important. But again, it's so challenging to figure out what dimension to pick anyway. I mean, the location is the only sort of common denominator. So if you are an end user and you're confused in your chart of accounts and you click on Find an Accountant and you put your zip code, or it actually pre-enters the zip code from your company file, it gives you a database of advanced pro advisors and of pro advisors, and the advanced pro advisors go in the top. The ones that have the most reviews go in the top. Very important hack, by the way. Reviews are gold when it comes to finding customers, getting referred into it from customers. Having a lot of reviews, 4 or 5 star matters. And we do get 2 or 3 leads a month. So realistically, 2 or 3 leads a month. I mean, we get probably, when we used to turn on free consultations, which we haven't done that in years, maybe we get 15 to 20, but most of them are tire kickers or people confusing us with tech support or something like that, and just a waste of time. But I mean, like real leads that we convert into clients, 2 to 3 per month, we get that. And everybody in my firm is an advanced pro advisor, and It helps a lot when somebody searches something locally, and there's 8 of us, you know, like all advanced pro advisors, all with reviews. Obviously, that helps a lot that we sort of we have deep presence in that area.
Okay, so we got a ton of questions in the Q&A. I want to get to these, so rather than
Amanda
waiting.
didn't get to her side of how much business she gets.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll make it quick. I'll say sort of similar to what Hector mentioned. There is an advisor directory for Xero. It is a bit of a mystery on how results come up. A business owner could go in and search by industry, search by location, experience levels, products, but it's still, it's kind of weird things you have to do on your end on the firm to set it up to make sure you're showing up correctly. If you are a Xero partner, you should talk to your account manager about that, because there are some levers that need to be pulled in your instance. I'd say I probably get now, and my firm is a side hustle now, right? Like my full-time job is with Paget. So I'm not doing any outbound marketing. I'm not really pushing to get listed higher up on the partner directory, but I'd probably say I'd get about one solid lead every month from the advisor directory that we convert.
All right, so thank you, Amanda. Sticking with you, I want to go through these questions in the Q&A, and these can be quick answers. So limit yourself to a minute, and we'll dig in further if we need to. So this would probably be a very quick one. Stephanie asks, does Xero include a mileage tracker like QBO does?
I don't know what the QBO mileage tracker is, but Xero Expenses, which is available in the highest level product, which is I think now $67 or $68 a month. Xero Expenses on the app, there is a mileage tracker. So it's not in the core product, but it is in the expenses module.
Gotcha. Michael asks, which is better for e-commerce clients? Hector, I'll let you just speak briefly to the e-commerce capabilities of QBO. Feel free to compare it to Xero, but if you don't know it, what the difference is, just say, you know, how does QBO work for e-commerce?
That's a separate 2-hour webinar, but to
You've got 1 minute.
So if you are using a third-party app like WebGility or Bookkeep or whatever, I think Xero and QBO will be identical, because at the end, QBO and Xero would just be a place to land a result of transactions, and it's just a GL and a P&L and balance sheet creator. From an operating standpoint, QuickBooks invested a lot in e-commerce, and they bought a company called TradeGecko, and they've converted that to QBCommerce, and that still kind of exists, but it's being winded down. And the technology from QBCommerce has been now implemented, built in inside QBO. So built in inside QBO, you can bring in transactions from Shopify, from Amazon, and from eBay, just with a sort of a one-click login, and it brings in the transactions and it puts them in, and it looks a lot like bank feeds. So the transactions come in and you can literally accept them or deny them as they come. And so what's there now, it's very powerful. However, if you want to manage inventory and e-commerce, you're still going to need a third-party app, because QBO cannot manage that internally.
Amanda? I
agree with Hector. I mean, if you're really looking at true e-commerce clients, you need a third-party app. Neither one is really built for the sophistication of, you know, high volume transactions, sales tax, inventory management. So see if, you know, there are a couple of people in the chat dropping ideas in. A2X is a good one. But I will say, you know, the kicker is making sure the integration is set up correctly. So it's less important which product you're using on the sales side, which product you're using on the GL side. It's that integration that becomes really important, because if you want to send a bunch of junk into a general ledger real fast, just connect a random e-commerce product and put it in.
Yeah, my challenge with, I don't know if Xero has this, but with QuickBooks in general, is that if you want people to use e-commerce in QuickBooks, right? The worst thing you can do is take a really clean QuickBooks file that you've been used forever and connect it and kind of see what happens and hope for the best. You know, the right thing would be if I could just take my file, duplicate it, be in a sandbox, and then go to sample Amazon data and have just sample Amazon data come in, so I can play with it and see how the synchronization and the integration works. And again, this will be this is a preview to that 3-hour webinar that I alluded to talk about e-commerce. But the reality is that e-commerce is a really complex topic, and I do not trust Xero and I don't trust QBO to be able to manage it completely, including all the endpoints such as customizable integration, how the data comes in, how to manage inventory, how to handle fulfillment. Neither platform is probably going to be close to managing that in the next 3 years or so.
Agree.
So what about receipt scanning or bill scanning? Do either products have that?
Yeah, so Xero does in expenses. So in the expenses module, it's very easy to do what you would think of akin to like an Expensify, right? Where you can match up receipts to either bank lines, so a company credit card, or have expense reimbursements. So Xero does do both of those in expenses, and actually really well. I mean, like it's a very slick app that's adjacent to the GL. There's also HubDoc. So some folks may be familiar with HubDoc as a document management processing tool. I'm treading lightly because it used to do some things that people loved that it no longer does, like fetch bank statements. Xero owns HubDoc, and so it does come in the business edition packages. So the all from the whatever it is, $12 to $30-something to $60-something package, you do get HubDoc. I will say we use it in our practice for exchanging documents with clients, for sending in bills and invoices for processing, because it does do that pretty well. It'll take documents, scan them, and OCR them, receipts as well. But if you're looking for something that's a straight receipt management package, I'd go with the Xero expenses.
So in all editions of QuickBooks Online has receipt management, where you can either email the receipt to a special email, or so you can forward something in an email it to your QuickBooks Online account. You can upload the PDF straight from the web portal. You can take a picture on your mobile device, and it will take you through a receipt page where it does some light OCR. And I say light because there's some things that even if it reads, is irrelevant to the transaction, but light OCR to kind of determine which is the source account, which is the vendor, that sort of thing. But what it doesn't do, and I don't know if Xero does that, is it won't read line item details and populate like a bill with inventory items. Like, it won't do that. And I know not many apps can do that either, but it won't do that sort of thing. And many times the customers sort of walk in with that expectation, and really all it really does is the workflow of taking a picture to creating a bill. It creates a sort of a natural two-step process, but it doesn't really save that much extra time, in my opinion, than just entering it manually. Because you could always upload manually a document or a receipt after the fact. So it's there, but I'm not gonna I've never sold somebody QBO because of that feature. It's more gimmicky marketing stuff than functional stuff anyway.
Christy asked a great question, saying, what do these softwares do terribly or not so well? It's easy to tout your favorite things, a little harder to pick them apart. So
I got a long list of that.
All right, give me your number one complaint.
My number one is different QuickBooks Online files with different features because of the partial rollout. Zero or horrible communication around, which company files have what. And as an accounting professional managing 20 clients, it is really bad when we're muscle memory creatures of habit, right? Like, I know I click here and I click there and I click here and I click there, and that's how I do my workflow for reconciling or whatever. The minute I switch to another client and they move that button, it just completely, it's almost like starting a brand new day with I have to go out, take a walk for a couple hours and come back to reset my brain. So
it'd be like you trying to use Xero.
I don't know if that works with Xero, but in QuickBooks Online, that's a huge challenge for me, and that's something that they need to improve. And I have a bigger list, but you asked me for one, so we'll stick with that one.
All right, Amanda, what's your number one beef with Xero?
Bank feeds. There's probably all kinds of applause in the audience right now. This has been a real struggle for Xero as they've retooled their intermediary for bank feeds. They're trying to get more direct bank feeds. So it's a direct integration with the banks, but for some reason it is taking freaking forever. And it is a reason folks have left Xero, honestly. So I think they know how difficult it is to work in Xero without high fidelity bank feeds. But Xero is a global company. I don't know that they fully understood how complex banking is in the US when they got here. No other region in the world, you guys know this, no other region in the world has the number of banks that the US does. And not only just not the number of banks, but the number of banks that have really crappy technology. That is probably the biggest struggle with Xero, the biggest deficiency, and they've got to fix it to win in the US.
If you were to ask a follow-up question, which is the opposite, like which is a very, 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 very most favorite feature about your app, about QuickBooks, it would be bank feeds. so interesting enough, it is the one thing that when people say, hey, is desktop better than QuickBooks Online? I will say, if it's bank feeds, it's QuickBooks Online, right? That period. I don't think any other, probably no other GL package out there between the bank rules, and if once you learn how to use the bank rules and learn how to use all the tools inside bank feeds, the efficiency around entering data straight from banks is huge. Now I have some friends in Canada and in Australia and the UK that say, hey, it's not the same there because we have value-added tax and things like that have to probably be entered outside of the bank feeds and then matched into bank feeds. But in good old USOA, when we don't have to deal with value-added tax, entering data straight from bank feeds is incredibly efficient.
Can I follow up with that too? Because once you've got the bank data into Xero, I think it's a better product for coding and reconciliation than QBO. Just what I've seen in QBO, the little bit I've dabbled. When I started using Xero in 2013, the first feature that I saw was cache coding, which is bulk coding. And it's the same basically since as it was 10 years ago. It is so slick. I looked at the screen and said, this is what I want for my practice. It is really super quick coding. So if you pair up cache coding and bank feeds, you can code any of those, cache coding and bank rules. You can open up the screen in Xero and click the mouse 3 times and you've coded everything that can possibly be pre-coded. So I don't think you can get more efficient than that.
Amanda, this may be me asking you a question. One of the challenges I've had with Xero, understanding Xero cache coding, is that in QuickBooks, bank feeds and reconciliation is 2 completely separate processes. And for cleaning up client messes, I cannot even wrap my head around how to not use a reconciliation process to understand the level or the gravity of the mess and where the duplicates are. Like I completely understand, like if I'm an accounting professional using Xero or QuickBooks Online, I'm not going to be cleaning anything up. I really don't even need to reconcile my own work. I don't need to ever reconcile my own work. My own work is auto-reconciled, quote unquote. But like for cleaning messes, I cannot even I don't even know how to fit my thought process into how to doing cleanup without reconciliations.
And I have to second that for Hector, because that was my biggest thing. Is I was in Xero, everything was matched in the bank, and I'm like, well, how do I reconcile? Like my brain still cannot process the fact there's not really a reconcile feature.
Screen. Yeah. Okay. So let's get that out of the way, because this is the big thing, right? This is the big thing that QBO advisors who've been working in QBO come to Xero and they're like, how do I even do this? So let's clear it up right now. In Xero, when you are doing coding, you are also doing reconciliation. So it's almost the same process that you do in QBO, the way I understand it, where at the end of the month, you say, okay, here are all my bank transactions. They match what's in the GL, click, click, click. I see it. You're doing that at the same time and you're doing the coding. So it's done on the front end. So you're coding a bank line, it's creating a journal entry in Xero, and it is reconciled. There is a bank line that matches a journal entry. To Hector's question about trying to figure out messes. I mean, first of all, you can prevent a lot of messes by setting up good bank rules and letting your clients play video poker, right? Like where they're just clicking, and it matches, right? So you can set a lot of that up for them and kind of dummy proof it. But there are ways to go in and figure out big messes. So one thing, if you run a bank reconciliation report in Xero, there's a tab called it's called exceptions, I think, where if you have a client who has gone in and somehow duplicated bank lines or made copies of bank lines or uploaded bank lines, it will flag them for you. So there is a report that shows like what can be obvious messes. And then there are features. There's a great feature that came out in 2017. I don't know how I remember that, except that it was incredibly important to me as an advisor, called Find and Recode in Xero, where it has a very sophisticated search feature. So you can go in and bulk recode. I think QBO does have that now, but Find and Recode is a super sophisticated tool. Go in, query on like coding problems. That's a good way to go fix your client's coding problems when they've put a bunch of stuff to whatever, ask my accountant or random wrong things. You can go in and get those and fix those problems as well.
Well, one of the things I found by talking to many Xero users, because again, I'm very curious about, if QuickBooks does have a competitor. In my mind, QuickBooks doesn't have a competitor, but I'm always open to seeing, the options that are out there. But one of the kind of the biggest thing that I get from Xero users is, hey, we don't clean up that many messes in Xero. Like Xero doesn't allow you to. I don't know why most people believe that Xero company files are less of a mess than the average QBO files. Now, my theory is that QuickBooks advertises heavily, deeply towards the end user first, and most end user accountant relationships with QuickBooks start with, hey, I did it on my own, I got frustrated, now I do need an accountant. So most first dates of an accountant, a small business owner, is a cleanup, right? So you have to understand our perspective. Like, if we don't have strong cleanup tools, it's very difficult for us to think of another platform. And almost all the time when I try to challenge Xero users, it's like, okay, what do you have as a cleanup tool for this, a cleanup tool for that? And the answer is, well, we don't have that much. I've never seen that issue. I don't have that many files to clean up in the first place. So there's a bit of a disconnection about the state of the average client that us accountants get when it's a Xero perspective or a QBO perspective. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, so I agree with you. I do feel like, it's a double-edged sword, right? You have lots of customers because QBO has the market, but you have a lot of customers who don't know what they're doing that are showing up at your door. So there's a lot of cleanup. I don't think what you've heard from Xero advisors is a good argument to why they don't do cleanup or don't have to do cleanup. Because I've certainly done some cleanup, a lot of cleanup on Xero files that have shown up on my door. There's not a tool per se in Xero that's like you can, run a macro and it finds problems. There's nothing like that, but there's a process for doing it. I think probably there's a half chapter in my book that's just about how to find errors and to fix them. So there's a way to do it, and it's just not necessarily its own feature.
So we've got some questions here about converting from one to the other. So Amanda, tell us about that quickly. What is the process? How long does it take? How difficult is it to convert from QBO to Xero? And then Hector, you talk the other direction.
Yeah, like the 5-second microwave version, because this could be another hour.
I know. I'll tell you what the story is, what the party line is, and what the truth is. The party line is, and Xero will pay for you to or subsidize you to convert QBO files using a tool called Jet Convert. You can get a certain amount of data converted for free, transactional data converted for free, or you can pay to have additional periods of data converted. Reality, in 10 years of using Xero, I've done one of those. It wasn't great because the client was using QBO on their own. And this is a true story. They had something like 1,200 GL lines because they had a GL line for every different type of inventory. It was a disaster. So, and what has really happened, or what I really do usually, is what we call a clean start, where I take cherry pick the good stuff out of the old file, the QBO file, like the chart of accounts, if it makes sense, the vendors and the contacts, and get those, get a trial balance started. So like I said, in 10 years, I've done one legit QBO to Xero conversion, and it was a mess.
Coming from a desktop world, I remember converting Quicken files to QuickBooks Desktop and Sage 50, which used to be Peachtree, to QuickBooks Desktop. And just inherently, because the two databases were so different, it was always a gigantic mess, regardless of the garbage in, garbage out argument that Amanda's making, which is a different issue altogether. I've never really found that converting. I've never found a smooth process of converting from any GL to the other. We even having a tough time converting from QuickBooks Online self-employed to regular QuickBooks Online. So if there is a great tool out there, I'm actually more curious if there's such a thing. But I think it's a combination of probably some semi-automated things and some things that a human being with judgment has to go in there and plug. So the clean start, which is beginning balance, a chart of accounts, a journal entry with beginning balances, item list, customer list, open invoices, open bills, it's really the approach that we take. It's it's realistically speaking, if a customer wants to switch from one to the other, they're gonna pay a professional like us $1,500, $2,000 to really truly dig in through it and also deal with the whole issues with garbage in, garbage out, and also training. Because one of the challenges with converting is just like straight conversion, it just doesn't work, because if the other person can acknowledge that they understood what you did, then by default what you did was crap, right? So you kind of have to combine the conversion process with onboarding, with training, so that person understands that they're in a new system, and again, they're used to pressing a button that does this and it doesn't do that anymore, so you have to go through that too. So there's a big market for that if people want to switch, but I think that most people are turned off by that cost, and that's why they end up not switching at all.
So both of you have a pretty solid stance. Like, Amanda, you have any clients on QBO, and Hector, you have no clients on Xero. So if somebody came in the door, you're migrating them, you're changing them over. But you both use apps, right? You use payroll apps and reporting apps and all these other things. I mean, at the end of the day, if you have an app stack, you have a payroll app and receipt and bill capture and bill payment and maybe a reporting app, and you have the GL, in theory, you could swap a GL and a client would never know, right? Like, in a way, right? So yes. What's the point of changing the GL at all if you're just going to get to the same end? It seems that you're just doing a lot of work because of I believe in blue, I believe in green, versus just the client's already on it. Just leave them on it. You're using all these other apps.
Because the client isn't doing their monthly work. In general, we're doing the monthly work. My staff is doing the monthly work. So the client isn't even, if the client isn't even touching the GL, then I'm going to put the client on the GL that my staff uses, and that I'm.
So it's a firm efficiency issue.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I'm on the exact same boat. Like I couldn't, like, just managing both online and desktop, which unfortunately is something we're still doing, and we're in the process of still phasing out. Just our biggest clients are in enterprise, so it's kind of it's hard because we don't want to deal with desktop anymore, but it's also hard because we have tons of revenue coming from that. So just dealing with QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, which are kind of with the same family, it's painful. So I couldn't even imagine throwing one Xero client into the wrench. It will completely mess up our efficiency. So it's like, Mr. Customer, if you don't want to switch or pay the switch fee, or maybe we'll price out the new engagement to include the switch fee, so to create no consternation and friction on the switch. If the client doesn't want to switch, I just can't take the client. This is very hard for me. I don't know if any firms support both, but I found it very challenging.
All right,
but yes, David, just to answer your question, if you have a strong operating system type app, because there's Bill.com is not an operating system type app. That's not the same thing that you're saying. We're talking about like an app that overtakes the entire operation, like a Notify, like a
Clio or
Clio, right?
Like Clio, like the one that Xero just acquired with inventory. What's it called? Like Locate. So if you have a big app like that where most of the source transactions are created from there, yes, swapping should be fairly easy. But a Bill.com or a Gusto, I mean, these are small pieces of the GL process. So no, having 3 apps, 4 apps, 10 apps is not what makes it easy. It's whether or not there's a full operating system app, a big app taking over the operation, and the QBO or Xero just being sort of the receiver end of the GL version of the transactions.
All right, I want to get to some of these earlier questions that came in. Timothy wants to know which is best for job costing. So Amanda, I'm going to ask you that. Can you do job costing in Xero? Any limitations to that?
Yeah, no. So yes, you can in their module called projects. So Xero, similar to Xero Expenses, has a module called Xero Projects. It's really, again, very slick for less to moderately sophisticated project costing. You can post time, you can post expenses. There is a great app, phone app, so you can have your folks in the field, input their time and costs directly in projects, and it'll feed into the GL. I use it in a couple of different ways for clients. I've used it for law firms before, actually. So using it for cases, lawyers have clients with cases. It works great for tracking time and costs. And I have a couple of engineering firms that use it for stuff in the field. So it's good. And again, this is all for like $68 a month. It's included in the very most expensive package of Xero. It's a great deal.
How about QuickBooks Online, Hector? I know desktop has always been the gold standard for job costing. Has
it
online? Has
Still is.
online caught up?
No, not caught up. If I could make an argument and frame it up as if, QBO projects has everything that, that Amanda said or mentioned, and I am not going to give into it this one because I've been very, very, very against the slow development of projects in QBO, and I'm in the forefront of the heavy frustration of QuickBooks Desktop users moving to QBO and it not doing what it needs to be done with projects. So no construction company ever I am going to recommend QBO to without an app. Now again, there are features for projects, and I could read off the QuickBooks website and use all the marketing talk to tell you it does manage projects. But in the real world, in the clients that I deal with, the ones that need work in progress reports and stuff like that, QBO by itself for projects is complete 100% garbage. Even the advanced edition that recently just added, which is awesome, very well executed, estimates versus actuals, there's a lot of details that are missing. So I don't know if Xero has it. I'm very skeptical that Xero can do what desktop can. The challenge that we have as QuickBooks Online users is, see, with Xero, you have nothing else to compare it to. We have QuickBooks Desktop to compare it to. So the problem is, no matter how good something is in QBO, if QuickBooks Desktop can make it better, it's challenging for us to accept that it's ready. And the problem is that we don't like recommending apps that are almost there. And that's one of the very frustrating things about it, is us knowing that there's a better alternative makes it challenging for us to say, Mr. Customer, just settle with 90%. And that's the challenge that I have. And job costing is one of those areas that need a lot of work.
Okay, so sticking with this sort of broader concept of like types of companies, construction, not so great for QBO. What about nonprofits? How does QBO do with nonprofits, Hector?
Nonprofit is not my area of specialty, but I can tell you that the reports are decent throughout. The one major complaint that nonprofit users have, and I'm an app developer too, so they come to me and they say, could you solve this issue? Could you solve that issue? Particularly with nonprofits, the biggest thing is the budget reports. Nonprofits are budget freaks, right? And then when it comes to budgets, we need like every dimension available. Year to date, month to date, same period to last year. It's missing some of those components, okay? So you can only do certain things from it. And most nonprofits want like 8 different columns of comparatives in this budget, and QBO is just not there yet. And to be fair, QuickBooks Desktop is it's like 95% there too. So it's also not perfect. Also, another huge challenge, and this is getting into the weeds of dimensions and stuff like that, is a P&L by classes with subclasses. QBO doesn't have strong collapsing mechanisms for classes and subclasses, not only showing the parents, only showing the subs. It doesn't really have that, and most people end up with reports longer than what they need to, and they have to export them to Excel and clean them up before they give it to the directors or whatever. So yes, it's very powerful. It can do a lot of things, but the development has not been concentrated on the needs of the nonprofit, in my opinion. A good point for Intuit. Intuit and TechSoup got together, and nonprofits, if they're members of TechSoup, they can buy QuickBooks Online Advanced, which is a $200 product, $200 a month product, for like $200 a year or something like, or 500. Let's say even $500 a year for like 75% off. They can buy it through TechSoup. So Intuit is cognizant of the budget crunch that a lot of these nonprofits have, and they do make the nonprofit edition through organizations more affordable.
Amanda, nonprofits.
Not
Xero.
my area of specialty either. I know that there are folks who use Xero for some nonprofit work. I think it's probably light nonprofit, not heavy nonprofit reporting. So if anybody out there is familiar with using Xero, please put it on in the chat. Not my area of specialty.
I can tell you that I did do a sizable nonprofit back a few years ago with Xero, and I was able to force the reports to do what Sage had done for them previously, but it was a challenge. You can do it, but you might not be able to please every executive director out there because they want things exactly a certain way. That's always the issue with reporting, right? Then you end up exporting to Excel, and what's the point of using accounting software?
And one tiny mini uber wonky issue is that QBO's budgets is not in the API, so you cannot use a third-party app to solve this problem. I don't know if Xero has budgets in their API, but that's the thing. Go to an API. Well, the problem is then I have to build the budget in the API. It's like double the amount of work. So one little tiny thing that I wish QBO could do for nonprofits particularly.
We had a commenter in the chat say, I use Xero for NFP and it is great. Breakdowns by classes, periods, etc. Yeah, I think it's one of those things you're just going to have to dig into the reporting in each app. And ultimately, though, the good news is you can solve it with these external reporting tools now that export, to Excel or to Google Sheets and then deal with it there if you have to. So always a solution now. I'm going to hand things over to David to close out. David, go ahead and ask one more question. What's your favorite? And then we'll let everyone get back to business.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to close on. So what's the one thing either QuickBooks or Xero can do in the future to just make the world better for accountants and bookkeepers?
Who's going to go first? We got to pick. Amanda.
A very big question. Like, I mean,
Well, it could
the
be a
whole
feature.
industry. Like, we're going to solve the whole industry with one.
It could be a feature. It could be like fixed bank feeds. It could be that small.
Well, bank feeds would be huge for Xero. I'll throw something new out there because Hector made me think of it just now with this nonprofit talk. Is budgeting in Xero is really old.
Yeah.
It's not even. It's really just placeholder data. It's not even an actual budget. So Xero, there's some really good things coming out of Xero on the analytics side and the dashboarding side and the advisory stuff that's built in the product. Man, getting budgeting right and getting it up to the level of the new stuff they're putting out would be huge.
How about you, Hector?
Yeah, inventory would be the weakest part that QuickBooks Online has. The QuickBooks Enterprise has nailed that. But as a small subsection, I think that to improve everybody's lives, they could finish what they started, which is getting the bank statements and the check images and the deposit images to work consistent across all the banks. Something that HubDoc did at some point in time, and HubDoc realized how difficult it is, and QuickBooks is going through the situation of noticing how difficult it is. But if that promise that was made, back in 2018 or 2019, QuickBooks Connect, where everybody clapped and high-fived each other and drank the night celebrating of a bright future of having bank statements and check images and deposit images downloaded into QuickBooks, it's still not there. And I understand that there's multiple moving parts and multiple parties involved, but that could be the one thing that can make either Xero or QBO completely stand out from each other, which is actually get that piece to work. Because as accountants, first of all, getting clients to give us a username and password that's accountant only, that's restricted, that's a whole ordeal. Second is, if they give us a username and password, we have to deal with the phone authentication issues, with the two-factor. That's also very, very challenging. And just getting, I think it's always going to be a problem. Just getting documents from clients is always pulling teeth. From the most sophisticated clients to the least sophisticated ones, it's always the challenge. It's always what slows us down. It's always what drives the prices up. It's always what makes it slowest for us to give proactive advice, to allow people to make the right decisions. And that's what advisory is. It all is. So if they could solve that could be the overarching thing that could put that platform over the top.
I love it. Thank you so much, Amanda and Hector. And thank you to the hundreds of people who joined us for this webinar today. An incredibly popular topic. And we are seeing demands for a part 2 in the chat. So Amanda, Hector, we might need to get you back here to do a part 2. And I apologize to everyone whose questions we could not answer in the Q&A. Hopefully we can do a number 2 version of this and get those answered for you. Before we go, I want to make sure that Hector and Amanda get a chance to direct folks to whatever they're working on. What should people check out? Hector, do you want people to go to your YouTube channel? How do they find you online?
Yeah, so if you just go to YouTube and type Hector Garcia CPA, you'll get there. And if I want to plug an app that I just started developing called Right Tool, which is a Chrome extension that it's right next to QuickBooks Online and enhances your navigation capabilities inside QuickBooks Online. Just search for Right Tool altogether, Right Tool, and check it out.
How about you, Amanda?
So if you want to learn more about how to use Xero in your practice, check out my book. It's on Amazon. It is deep, man. It is like 400 something pages of very detailed instructions on
I think I got a copy.
How to do something in Xero. It's there are a lot of hacks and kind of off-label uses. So that would be great. You can certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn if you've got direct Xero questions. I love having these conversations. I am a nerd about it. So please please reach out to me. And Hector, what a pleasure to be able to do a webinar with you. You're really such a treasure for the QBO community. And thank you for doing this with me.
Likewise, it was an honor.
And if you want to follow me and David Leary, listen to our podcast, the Cloud Accounting Podcast. You can go to cloudaccountingpodcast.com or search for that on your favorite podcast player, such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We're also on YouTube, and you can see our faces when we record now, and you can join us live. We started live streaming. So hope to see you there, in addition to future Grove webinars. Allison, anything else that we should add? Oh, I almost forgot. So CPE, if you didn't hear this at the beginning, listen now. If you want CPE for this webinar, you'll get an email by next week that will have instructions for how to take the course. We're going to wrap this recording in a self-study course on the Earmark app. You take a quick quiz and you get your hour of CPE. So we have to do that after the fact because it's self-study. We'll follow up with instructions. So just watch your email inbox.
Yeah, and we'll be sending that out to all of you registered attendees. And I just want to thank all of you, David, Blake, Amanda, and Hector, for your incredible discussion today. I can't believe how fast this hour went, and what a joy. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Everyone.
Allison.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.